Hello, guys. Welcome to this new edition of my podcast. This is Aadit Kapadia coming to you on yet another weekend, a very eventful, newsy weekend. And we are here with a purely political podcast. It's going to talk about the state assembly elections in India. Right now, we're at the midpoint of the elections where most of the states have voted. But in West Bengal, there are four phases done. I think four are yet to happen, and we're about 3 weeks away from the big day, which is May 2nd. So, which will be, I think, 3 Sundays from now. Or if you are watching this in India, it would have been Monday. So two Sundays from now, if that calculation sets up. So with me to break down what has happened, what will happen, and what people have missed out is author, columnist, Mind Podcast alum, and good friend of ours, Kishor Narayan, coming from Bengaluru. Hi, Kishor.
Hello, Aadit. Nice to be back again.
Absolutely. And I must say that maybe I should have, since that is the trend on Twitter, I should say we have got our own Indira Nagar ka Gunda. But that is only true for one Bangalorean, not for Kishore. It's a fascinating ad with Rahul Dravid.
Somehow you generally ask any random Bengaluru person on the road. I don't think they would approve of that avatar of Rahul Dravid.
I think if you ask,
I think that has the general psyche of a normal Bengaluru person. Far more composed, like not that we don't have maniacs on the road, we do, but to look at Rahul Dravid like that on screen is almost bordering on blasphemy.
So I don't even think we need to go to Bangaloreans. I think we should just go and ask Rahul Dravid, and he must have cringed about 10 times between shots. But I have to say one thing. It does take guts doing this kind of ad with Rahul Dravid, and good on Rahul Dravid to actually follow up with this, because it's a very unique ad.
He has been a sport always. I mean, you give him a task, he'll go do it. There's nothing.
अरे वो तो बेचारा when he was a player तब से wicket keeping से यहाँ तक he's still doing
it. You give him
but
a task.
No, but Rahul Dravid for what he's done for Indian cricket and for youngsters especially. Well, this was fantastic. This was maybe it's all this NCA guys that he has been touring. They all goaded him. Yeah, Rahul sir, you are spending all this time with 19-year-olds and not with 35-year-olds. go to something. But
yeah.
I'll tell you, Rahul doing this is not blasphemy. Anil Kumble doing this would be blasphemous.
Oh, then we would be on the street.
Because Anil Kumble on the field, he looks exactly like Rahul Dravid in his aggressive avatar, especially if Venkatesh Prasad or Srinath fumbled the ball and it went for 4. Kumble would probably But off the field, he was an absolute... And Kumble had the weirdest celebration after the wicket. I mean, I have never seen someone celebrating so aggressively. But gem of a person...
Yeah, you would almost think that you should not even go congratulate Kumble. That would be how.
Yeah. They're like, I could have picked up this wicket two overs ago had you been standing where I told you to. So that is what he might have said. But Sachin and Kumble happen to be two of my favoriteest Indian cricketers ever, and I make no two qualms about that. So, all the people who wag Kapil Dev and Gavaskar in front of me, I mean, they are great. I've never seen them play. Kumble and Sachin made me dream and made me believe. So, they will always be there. So, anyways, हम लोग कहाँ politics से cricket में चले गए, but this is IPL, so ऐसा ही होता है, IPL season, so ऐसा ही होता है. And RCB have actually won a match, the opening match. So, I mean, maybe Kishore is happy because of that. What do you guys say? इस साल कप नमक दे, right?
इस साल कप नमक दे, yeah.
हाँ, इस साल कप नमक दे. So I'm getting my Bengaluru lingo. Maybe I should come visit. You know?
Oh yeah, you have to. I've been telling you for many years now.
Maybe this time I should. This was just interesting. So we're going to go straight into number crunching and discussion. So let's start with West Bengal. And before I show you guys the maps and everything, we'll just go over what has happened. and what Kishore thinks about this thing. So West Bengal is a very interesting thing because you have 294 seats and almost half of them have already voted, so correct me if I'm wrong.
Pretty
And
much.
bjp
Yeah.
is bjp is very interesting this time. BJP is contesting on 293 seats, and AJSU is its ally is contesting on 1 seat,
One
right?
thing.
It Yeah, so it seems like except for I mean, heck, Trinamool Congress is contesting on less seats than BJP this time. Gorkha Janmukti Morcha is actually allied with Trinamool Congress, so they get the
Mhm.
3 seats in Darjeeling, and there is an independent, I think, that they're supporting. So it's very interesting that I have usually BJP is the one party with which actually contests less seats, but this time BJP, and I think this is the right strategy, that they have maximized what they can get this election, because they do know this is the best time sort of झंडे गाड़ देने के लिए.
I think so. I think so. BJP has understood that this is the time that they have to play on the front foot. They know that they need to capitalize on multiple aspects. One is the continued border issues and the immigration issues. The other is the 10-year long anti-incumbency. And the third one is the continued center state tiff that finds no end. So I think, and in addition, one more reason is BJP had grown organically, and suddenly it found that push with all the TMC ministers quitting and joining BJP. So I think multiple factors combined, I think BJP is playing it on the front foot, and they feel that this should be a watershed moment for them.
Absolutely. So let's go straight into the numbers then, and
Mhm.
talk a little bit about numbers, and see, basically tell everyone what is going on in Bengal. So here is Bengal, basically how it led last time. Again, this is Wikipedia, as I always say. We have all the 4 states pulled up for you guys, so you can take a look. Last time, Mamata won 211 seats, and so I mean, she's obviously in the in the forefront of this. The majority of the votes that have been cast, and here are the voting percentage, the turnouts that I want to, almost 80 to 84, 85%. Like, this is 79.9, 80% is the lowest so far. Otherwise, like, it's
Right.
been 84.6, 84.6. So it's phenomenal turnout. And I know Bengal always has high turnout, but this is ridiculously high turnout, even by Bengal standards.
Yeah, Bengal, Assam, even Bihar to some extent, they always come out in large numbers to vote. But I agree, these are phenomenal numbers, and the challenger, the BJP, would actually be very happy to look at these polling
Yeah.
percentages.
So, and this is what I wanted to show you. I was looking for the maps, guys. So, my apologies if I was scrolling too fast. But basically, this is the map I was looking. So, you have a significant amount of seats that have already gone to poll, close to about 140, as I said. I mean, I'm calculating on the fly here. It could be about 135, 140 odd. But more than 150 seats basically go to polls now in the next 4 phases, which majority are in the Mamata stronghold area. So if I were to zoom in, all this area, your Kolkata area right here, this is where Mamata usually does well. The places where BJP has done well in the last Lok Sabha, some of the places have already seen gone to poll, and some high profile candidates like Swapan Dasgupta, you had Adit Ganguly, Locket Chatterjee, all these people go there. And this time, interestingly, BJP has fielded a lot of MPs as MLA candidates. So how do you explain that? Do you think it's a strategy to maximize gains, or do you think they may not have that many candidates there in Bengal?
I think it's not about finding the right candidate. I mean, you have enough
Yeah.
grassroots workers who can be fielded as candidates. I don't think that is the issue. But
Yeah.
I think the issue is they need proper firepower to target Mamata. And for that, they
Yeah.
feel that the incumbent members of parliament are the right choices to fight against her.
Exactly.
And another thing is that even if you let go of these five MPs or six MPs, hell is not going to fall or heaven is not going to fall on you in Delhi. I
Yeah.
mean they're sitting quite pretty out there. So I think that
True.
is one reason why they decided.
And also, I think if they want to make a couple of them ministers in the local, maybe they can, get their Lok Sabha seats in a repoll, and they might be re-elected with a greater majority. Because, there's always the honeymoon effect, as they say, for after the election. But very, very interestingly, Bengal
And,
is also a third front.
no,
Sorry, go on, Kishore. Yeah,
and there has been a tested formula for BJP in Uttar Pradesh also, wherein they had
yeah,
quite a
yeah,
few MPs who were brought in to fight the MLA elections, and most of them
yeah.
won. So I think they kind of know their game out here, and I think they're sticking to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So in Bengal, weirdly enough, there is also a third front, and it's funny to call the Communist Party of India Marxist as the third front, or whatever the front you want to say. But basically, the communists and the Congress has, and as you can see, CPIM 137 seats, 91 seats. I mean, 2006, the last election that communists won, they won like 200 seats, their allies, and now from there they're not even contesting that much, or maybe they're just about. No, I think they're not, because this time they also accommodated the Indian secular front, which there is nothing secular about that front.
True, true. I
So
think
it
Yeah,
yeah.
I think once TMC captured power in 2011, I think it was a complete cliff to fall from for the
Yeah.
left, even in Bengal, and eventually, I think it will fade out, just like all the other Janata Dal A, B, C, D, E, F that we have seen in all the past decades.
Yeah, yeah. So that is essentially what it is. This is Janata Dal United. This is Janata Dal Secular. This is Janata Dal Revolutionary Secular. I don't know. I'm just kidding. Obviously, that's not true. But still, the debate is now: will left and Congress actually win the same amount of MLAs as many as star campaigners they have? And I don't think so, because I don't see them getting more than 15, 20 MLAs.
I think Congress didn't even send their major campaigners to Bengal for quite a while. So I don't think they are
Yeah.
even taking that state seriously.
And
Uh,
what is
ob-
interesting is that, sorry, go on, Kishore.
Obviously, I'm talking about the Congress, and CPIM does not have any external campaigners, so to speak. Everybody
Yeah, well, I
has
mean,
to be
yeah,
from.
unless you call Biman Bose, who has been an external campaigner, not fighting elections for like God knows how many years. So,
Most most of them are like the non-playing captains in tennis dynasty.
absolutely. And CPIM is the only 11 where the 12th, 13th, and 14th member are not only are doing the team selection, they are also running the campaign or fitness. I mean, it's funny. And when I see all these reporters, NDTV, Wire reporters were very nostalgic about the left role, right? I don't know what the hell do they have nostalgic to feel about. Maybe their sense of proximity to power, possibly, I don't know. And they try to give them coverage, and it's like, oh, Samyukta Morcha is coming. So I was like, even they don't sound convincing. So when you have your own champus not sounding convincing, how the hell are you going to convince voters?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think they have already started telling or making noises that we will align with Mamata if the numbers actually come to that point, wherein it's almost like handing out feelers to Mamata that hey, you know what, we are still relevant in the state of West Bengal, but Mamata would not take any of it. I don't think she would want to accommodate this kind of a nonsense at this
Exactly.
stage.
And of course you have the Nandigram constituency where Mamata and Suvendu are fighting, and there is apparently Meenakshi Mukherjee is also running. What is fascinating, I find, is that now the battle, and I'm stopping the sort of discussion when we'll sharing the screen, not the discussion. We'll go to Assam shortly. What is interesting is also the battle for Hindu vote, right? Because ultimately now they are people who are not on Clubhouse, or haven't heard Prashant Kishore talking. I don't think it was as much of a scandal about that was going on and stuff, and I don't want to even go into the merits and demerits of recording and all that. What was interesting is, after 7 years, if these buggers who are senior journalists have to ask, why is Modi popular? Why is Modi popular? That just tells us that whatever we have assumed about their sort of, lack of intellect in analyzing situations or unwillingness to analyze situations is true. That they either don't have the brain power to process this, or they're actually dumb enough to buy the Rahul Gandhi Kool-Aid.
Or along with that, they also have a bias, which they don't want to accept.
Yeah. Hey, but when you hear Ravish Kumar saying the way, I mean, it was borderline funny if it wasn't too tragic. I was like, yeah, hey, what's he saying? But for people who don't know, just look up Prashant Kishore Clubhouse or आपको पता चल जाएगा. People on Twitter who have been living under a rock. But
Yeah,
overall, what do you think?
I think the first four phases, it's quite obvious that the non-metropolitan Hindu in Bengal, from the tribal areas, from the south and north 24 Paraganas, Medinipur, the east and west Midnapur. I think everywhere the people have already made a choice, and I think most of them are voting for the BJP. Looking at the way even Mamata is reacting, let alone how the
Yeah.
BJP is reacting, and I think that what is setting the cat among the pigeons, wherein they kind of realize that until now the Bhadralok Bengali Hindu was the sole Bengali voice, but now suddenly the other people have decided to stand up for themselves, have their
Yeah.
own vote counted, and they are not going to take any nonsense from the metropolitan Calcutan. So I think that's
I, I,
where.
st- I still never understood how Sitaram Yechuri accurately portrayed the inspiration, or accurately portrayed what East Midnapur, not and other districts felt. Like, Sitaram Yechuri was probably, as I think, who was it? Arun Jaitley had joked once that he's a
Mhm.
member of the Marxist Congress,
Acha.
or something like that. He had joked something like that. I forget. But basically, it is that Sitaram Yechuri was essentially a congressman on loan to CPIM.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean,
and
he
and,
was
and,
like
and
he was like that bridge between those two parties. I mean, anybody
Mhm.
could use him, walk
And
over.
what is interesting is the emergence of Narendra Modi post 2014 has eclipsed a lot of these bridges that used to exist. Unfortunately, I mean, Amar Singh passed away, but he was a bridge in his heyday. So was Sitaram Yechuri. And there are many such bridges, especially in Maharashtra politics. It was filled with bridges. So like Manohar Joshi was one of those guys between BJP and Sena, and then he was made speaker and so forth. So that has ensured that thankfully those bridges are no longer relevant, and there are less things that are flowing under the bridge also now because of that.
Yeah.
Right now, but moving forward to what has happened in the four phases. So you're saying clearly in the first four phases it is advantage BJP. BJP has performed, or at least seemingly has performed, as per, if not lowering, as per expectations in their phases, because they would have had to sweep the first four phases to actually have a chance of forming the government, because the next four phases, some of the seats, just the arithmetic and demographics are simply stacked against the BJP.
I totally agree. Had it not been the case, Mamata would not have written that letter to all the other opposition parties, asking
Right.
them that we are reaching a situation quick and fast where we need to unite together. Obviously, she would have one eye on the 2024 polls, but quite obviously, she knows what she is going to face on the 2nd of May.
Also, I think there is another thing. Prashant Kishore is not, whatever he has said about BJP and this and that and all that. Um, One thing is for sure, I think he's unable to come to terms with that realization, or maybe people around Prashant Kishore are, or based on what we heard and stuff, that the BJP is did this, whatever it did in Bengal, based on 7 years of performance, and not the organization that the left and Trinamool Congress had. People forget that Trinamool Congress also split from the Congress in 1984, or something. 1980, I forget the exact year, but something
Much
like that.
later. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
much later, but you get what I'm saying. The gist, basically, that it's split from the Congress and so forth. BJP has actually emerged on its own. It's not like split, and after it is gone to a spot where it gets 20%, 30%, 40% of the vote, that's when people from Trinamool Congress started coming lock, stock, and barrel, and so forth into the BJP. But one last point, and then we'll move on to the other states. Um, BJP still needs to win a few seats in this things also. It's certain. I mean, they have to win 148, 147 seats, and I mean they're not going to win 100% of what went to polls, obviously.
Mhm.
So, do you think this is also them trying to sort of lull BJP into some complacency or something? Ki ha, ab to jeet gaye, and not go as hard. I mean, I know Amit Shah is not going to do that, but do you think the election is? I'm playing devil's advocate here, closer
Mhm.
than what we see might be.
I think Prashant Kishore might have that in his mind while he was doing that. I don't think he is dumb to think that it was a closed room altogether.
Exactly.
But then I think the BJP would anyway have thought about bringing up CAA and NRC in the last 3-4 phases of the Bengal polls. Obviously, Assam is done and dusted. The future is already decided. So I think this is the right time for BJP to bring up the amendment issue. So I think it all plays well for them, wherein they can now go and tell the Malda Hindus, how many ever are left now, can and reach out to them directly, telling this is the imminent danger that you are in, and you might not even see another 5 years if you continue with the current dispensation. So I think this is the strategy that BJP will go with. Prashant Kishore's observation might just be a noise for them. I don't think they would read too much into it because they have done all the hard work in the past 5-10 years in Bengal, and all the workers getting murdered, hanged up on the streets. I think that is enough motivation for BJP out there. I don't think Prashant Kishore's statement will do any harm to them.
Absolutely, absolutely. I completely agree with you. So, moving on to the elections that have already taken place. So, let's go to Assam, right? Assam, and then now I'm going to go through all the three states: Assam, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, because the elections have already taken place. So, I mean, there's no point in talking about what phases and stuff like that. Sab ho gaya hai. And Tamil Nadu and Kerala, anyways, voted in one phase. So let's talk about Assam. Assam, this is a very interesting thing. BJP has actually formed up the alliance with AGP, and I am tired now about people calling it a tectonic shift because वो 5 साल से हो रहा है tectonic shift हो गया है that AGP is not as powerful as it is, and people who have covered Assam in the 80s still keep talking about it, and I'm like, yes, I agree, it's very important, but let's face it, now BJP is the dominant party in the alliance, and it is going to be forever because AGP massively squandered its mandate. So now it is their sort of
The junior partner.
influence. Yeah, no, and their influence is limited to pockets, right? It's a pocket party. Like, look at where the seats is, right? They're like a few districts here and there and so forth.
Yeah,
So it's not a pan Assam party, and in a weird way, they are like a senior version of AIUDF essentially, or a BPF, right?
pretty
And if
much. Yeah.
see that. So I mean, not I'm not talking about ideologically. I'm just talking about seats wise. And if you actually see them, that's the number of seats they're contesting. AIUDF and BPF are 14 and 12, and they're 26. So there is so here, unlike Bengal, BJP does have a very strong alliance with these three folks. It's a very it's a very a home alliance, a very Hindu alliance. It's a very local sort of regional alliance, and then you have the Congress, which is a very different sort of alliance because you have the the regional, like Bodoland People's Front, which is a very ethnic party in Bodoland, based in the Bodoland region. Then you have Badruddin Ajmal from AIUDF, a lot of whose members have made some very communally insensitive statements, sort of. And then you have the Marxists. So how do you view this?
I think it's more a Ahomi versus an outsider, or an Ahomi versus a non-Ahomi identity kind of a duel that's going on. Quite obviously,
Hmm.
because AIUDF or INC, they're kind of looking at the Bengali vote within Assam in certain pockets, and also the Bodo tribals. I think that's what they are
Yeah.
trying to do. They are trying to stitch up a rainbow coalition against a formidable Ahomi identity that BJP and AGP already have captured. Another thing is that the vote transferability from BJP to AGP or vice versa happens
Hmm.
quite seamlessly. Even if you have an AGP candidate in a BJP stronghold, the entire BJP vote shifts over and vice versa. So I think that's the
Yeah.
kind of chemistry that AGP and
And they've
BJP
had for a
have.
long time. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, and the same cannot be said about all the varied constituents of the UPA in Assam.
oh,
Now,
no,
what I
sorry, go
would,
on, Kishore.
yeah, what I would be interested in is, would the BJP combine get the same amount of seats as the last time, or will they be? Well, last time they had a fairly comfortable majority. Now, this
Hmm.
time would they be struggling? Would they just about cross the halfway mark? If so,
Hmm.
would it raise a serious question mark about the incumbent Chief Minister Sarbananda Sonowal? Where would Himanta Biswa Sharma think that this is his moment? This was his kind of
Election.
victory.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that are those are the kind of questions that I would try to
Or
look out for the answers for.
or maybe Himanta sees himself as a role in the party, right? Like Amit Shah was never going to be the CM of Gujarat, right? Even though he was the home minister,
Hmm.
he was always going to be after the national. So maybe Himanta says that. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here. But it's funny. I'm glad Kishore mentioned this because I wanted to show you guys this. So if you look at this right here, NDA got 71 seats, out of which 11 seats belong to the BPF, Bodoland People's Front. Now, if you take out the BPF, the 11 fronts, and I mean, of course, there are 12 vacant seats, but now, I mean, you know what? This is because of the autonomous region, right? If I'm not mistaken, Kishore?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the 12 vacant seats. Yeah. So basically, what BJP needs, I think, what, 60, at least 60, 63, essentially. Or even like if you take out the 12 seats, out of the 114, they need 57 seats. Right. So last time it was very, very close with AGP and BJP getting 58 and 12, and getting to 71, and then 71 out of 126, and then with BPF it took them to 82. So or 80, yeah, 82 seats. So how do you view this? Like, how will this play out and pan out?
Uh, yeah,
And do you see the Congress and AIUDF increasing their vote share?
I think that would happen. That is a reality that nobody should deny. Nobody should live in
Yeah.
a full paradise thinking that BJP
Mm,
will sweep this. I don't think they would sweep it vote wise. Seat wise, they would obviously in a first past the post system, but vote share wise, I don't think they would be looking at a 50-55%. I think it'll be much lesser. And however, the main issue for the BJP is how widespread are they? Will they be pulling in equal number of votes from all the regions of the state? Barak
yeah.
Valley, Lower Assam, the Brahmaputra, the River Valley. I think that's how BJP would be looking at the state,
Yeah.
trying to
Hmm.
understand are they still the numero uno in all the different regions of the
Yeah.
state, and would they continue to have the same amount of heft going forward?
Yeah, and then you have the Dhubri region and all where AIUDF is very strong, right? And where Badruddin Ajmal is a sitting MP from. So what is going to happen there, right? Like there, I mean, AIUDF won on its own also. So with Congress in alliance, they're going to sweep those regions. So
Pretty much,
the
yes.
real question is also the Hindus that used to vote for the Congress, are they
Mhm.
going to be comfortable voting with a candidate from Badruddin Ajmal's party, or are they going to switch to the BJP? Because if that happens, if there is not transferability between Congress and AIUDF, that is going to be the most interesting part. Yeah.
Right, right, and
Because
yeah, that'll be one of the issues to look out for on the 2nd of
Yeah,
Feb.
because BPF, let's face it, I mean, they are who they are. I mean, they always sort of quote. So you had the Borderland People's Front basically fighting in all those seats where they have BJP has given the new party, the Union People's Liberal Party, basically
Yeah.
that Pramod Boro had in 2020. So will that split the vote? don't know. It might be a Tripura type situation as well.
Mhm.
So that is the sort of thing for Assam. So now moving on from Assam to what promises to be the biggest humdinger, Tamil Nadu. About 1 year ago, if you had asked, the Tamil Nadu election would have been discussed as a close election or something, people would have laughed at you because you had MK Stalin running away the election at
Oh
that time.
no, 1 year ago during not even 1 year ago, during the Galwan crisis, when me and Mohal
Huh.
were on this episode, on this show, I had
Yeah.
openly told that if elections are held that day,
Hmm.
DMK would be the winner. It was quite
Yeah.
obvious.
It was quite obvious. And although you had Anna DMK winning 2 terms in a row, which has not happened since MGR in Tamil Nadu, it was always rotating chairs
Hmm.
between him and Jayalalitha. But Jayalalitha did win, but tragically passed away a few months after the victory, or maybe a year after. I forget exactly, but very shortly after the victory. And Palanisamy has been the leader since 2017 and has been the chief minister. Very interestingly, he has been a very approachable chief minister. In a strange way, almost it reminds me of what Vijay Rupani became in Gujarat in
Hmm.
2017, where a lot of it was a close election, and then he now is the second longest BJP serving chief minister. I think he has gone past Keshubhai Patel's record. And I mean, there are kinks being ironed out and everything, but it's
Hmm.
almost a similar situation where Palanisamy is in. And Tamil Nadu this time is the first time when the two biggest personalities of the last 2 decades have passed away, Karunanidhi and Jayalalitha. And now
Yeah,
this time you have Stalin leading, and then you have TTV Dinakaran. So now you have the claimants of the legacy, right?
right.
And then you have Kamal Hassan, who only exists, I think, in India Today studios. Because I saw Rajdeep's interview with Kamal Hassan, and I'm like,
Okay.
what the hell, man? How is he even a factor? How do you even take him seriously? And I don't even know if Seaman does anything. I mean, I think Seaman got like 1.07% of the votes last time. So it's pretty much it's going to be like one and a half the Tamil nationalist party. I think, right? I think that's what the classification is.
Yeah,
But here are the sorry, Kishore. I was just going to give a overview, and then I was going to leave you the stage. So here are the alliances, and why don't you start with NDA? First, finish your opening comments, and then go into the alliance.
yeah, I think you were right in saying that this is now a new Tamil Nadu without the elders there. So I think it's now Stalin versus Edapadi Padanisamy. Now Edapadi Padanisamy took some time to establish himself as the first among the equals with his fight against Open Selvam. Now, I think that
Hmm.
was done and dusted quite early for them, advantage to them.
Right.
Stalin thought that their infighting might continue for a little longer,
He
thinking
hoped
that he,
he
he
hoped that their infighting would be longer than his and Kanimori's.
in fact, Opanir Helvam wanted the leadership issue to be resolved after the elections, but Palanisamy did not want that to be a stumbling block. So I think they decided quite early. I mean, they had a good 4 months, 5 months left uh, before that was sorted out. And then came the other issue of what happens to Shashikala. And suddenly, somehow, the dark black clouds withered away for ATMK, where she miraculously and mysteriously announced that she would not be fighting elections owing to
But what
old
about
age.
TTV Dinakaran? Because I hear he's still aggressively getting, or now the election is over, he aggressively got some ADMK votes. Is that true?
Now, immediately after Shashikala's announcement, he was very hopeful that he would be invited back into the ADMK office, and suddenly there would be some kind of a seat sharing or an alignment, which didn't happen, which was
Hmm.
very obvious to prove that the ADMK leaders were quite confident that there would not be massive shift in voting patterns. So I
Hmm.
think
Hmm.
ADMK does not think that has happened. TTV
Hmm.
Dinakaran, I think the best shot for him, he would get only one shot at all this. He got that one shot, but I don't think many people took him seriously. the ADMK
Yeah.
voters. Now, along with that, him tying up with Ovaisin's party, I think that was kind of a deal breaker for anybody else. Had that not been the case, probably BJP would have kept him alive, hoping that he can be a useful person later, sometime later. But I don't think he'll anyway be a statewide player going forward. So I think that way ADMK knew that this is what we're going to play with. These are our constituent parties, and our challenge in front of us is quite enormous. But having said that, Palaniswamy was quite obvious in showcasing what he had to showcase. He was quite clever in not portraying 10 years of incumbency or 10 years of administration. He was very clever in showcasing only 3 years of his chief ministership. And I think that was where he kind of hit the right notes, wherein he approached people telling, this is the kind of a forward looking administration that I have had, and this is what you're going to
Yeah.
vote for. If you vote for me again, this is what you're going to get.
What is interesting here is, and I was looking at the basically seat sharing arrangements, right? And we'll come to Congress. I find it insane that Congress has 8 MPs from Tamil Nadu, and they have given 25 MLAs. So I think they give them a couple of MPs too many, because I don't think they expected the AMMK to split the ADMK vote the way it did in 2019 Lok Sabha. What is interesting is you have the ADMK, now you have the Padali Makkal Kachi, which is the S. Ramados's party, which is dominant amongst the Vanniyar community. And usually it has been a very flip-flop party, but they have been with the NDA since 2014.
Right. I think they've decided that this is where they'll continue to be. I don't think they're going to shift anymore, especially with the younger Antumani Ramadas
Anbudumani.
now
Yeah.
running the party more or
He,
less.
he, I think, is closer to the BJP. Although he was a minister under UPA, I think he's probably more leaning towards the BJP than to the Congress, if I'm not
And
mistaken.
also the caste equations work out better for him while being a part of
Correct.
the NDA, not with the UPA. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have BJP. So interestingly, BJP has been given some very tough seats to fight out of the 20, and I think they've taken it on the chin. But I think out of the 20, probably only 7 or 8 are even contestable for them. Don't you think so?
7 or 8 are only contestable for them, and I would be,
Like, yeah,
yeah, pleasantly
you think the
surprised.
number is even lower?
No, I mean, you are right in saying so, but I would be pleasantly surprised if they can win 5 or 6 of them. I would be very happy
Oh,
for them.
absolutely.
Under the
Yeah,
situation, in the context that these elections are being fought, BJP obviously went ahead with their absolute Velvetri Yatra, wherein they decided that they
yeah.
would they would kind of uh, claim. No, sorry, I'm
The
not getting the right word.
ideological, no, the
Right.
ideological ground, and
Correct.
ADMK would play the regional ground.
And also, ADMK would challenge DMK in terms of their bad rule or misgovernance, wherein they would tell that, see, we can give you better administration than what they gave. And BJP would totally challenge DMK in terms of the ideology, in terms of how anti Hindu their rule has been, how anti Hindu their thought process has been. So I think it was a double whammy for DMK in terms of absorbing both the attacks and respond back in kind. So I think DMK
No, no,
found that to be quite
sorry, go on.
quite a handful.
Yeah, and I find it fascinating that Movendar Munnetha Kadagam and All India Movendar Munnani Kadagam are all fighting one MLAs only. All India, but they're only fighting one MLA in Tamil Nadu. So I mean, in Tamil, this is the most amazing thing about Tamil Nadu. You have one guy who probably wants to fight, and he just forms his own party. So
And he
I mean,
continues to
that's
be
why.
and he continues to be relevant in his pocket until
Yeah.
he decides to end his political career, either which way.
Exactly, exactly. It's fascinating, and then how GK Vasan is back, because GK Vasan was in the Congress, obviously the son of Mupanar, GK Mupanar,
Mupanar.
who started the Tamil Manila Congress, and he is obviously called Tamil Manila Congress Mupanar. So now going to the now they've changed their name and called them Secular Progressive Alliance because they get all their ideas on Twitter, I think, these days. But anyways, so DMK is the dominant party with 173 seats, and Congress is only getting 25 MLAs. It seems like Congress and BJP are almost in mirror mode, where they are like fighting urban pockets or a few traditional pockets and stuff. What is interesting is the players like VCK, MDMK, Vicos Party, even the communists, because communists actually, if you remember, in 2004, I think they won 4 MPs in Tamil Nadu, if I'm not, or was it in
Right.
Andhra? Sorry, or maybe they won a few in Tamil Nadu also.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm forgetting. But then MMK, so and the Muslim League is also contesting because I think
They
one
are
of
quite
the
strong.
MPs in
They are quite
in
strong in the
Ramanathapuram or
Ramanathapuram area.
something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ramanathapuram MP is from the Muslim League.
I
They
remember. Yeah.
defeated the BJP guy H. Nagendra, if I'm not mistaken. So please don't quote me on that, and please don't think I'm a freakish guy for remembering all this. So because a lot of people have written, it was like, "Kaise yaad hai?" I was like, "Bas, we are all passionate about all this." So talk a little bit about DMK alliance, and then we'll go to the final players, and then wrap up with Kerala.
Again, another rainbow coalition with DMK being the rallying force for each one of them. Iron Congress, of course, 25 years, far too many for them. They have absolutely no pull in the state. Surprisingly, you will find a few assembly constituencies where you would have a BJP fighting a Congress, which is kind of unthinkable in a state like Tamil Nadu. And I think this may be one state where Congress might actually defeat BJP in a head-to-head. Looking at the way DMK votes get pulled over to Congress, and looking at the way ADMK votes get pulled over to BJP.
Except
But then
except for Kanyakumari, I think BJP has a real chance in Kanyakumari this time with Ponnar.
you're you're talking about the Lok Sabha bypoll, correct? I totally
Lok
agree.
Sabha and also the Lok Sabha and also the Vidhan Sabha seats, because I think BJP is contesting 1 or 2 seats straight against Congress there in
and
Kanyakumari.
and 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 even in Coimbatore South, where Vanati Srinivasan is,
वहाँ
uh,
तो श्री श्री कमल
along,
हसन भी है ना.
along with Kamal Hassan from
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that's an interesting side note for what to look out for on the 2nd of May. But then, along with that, what we need to understand is, are the people of Tamil Nadu really done with their superstardom leaders, or are they
Yeah.
still going to lean on to people like Kamal Hassan, or would they want to go back to Stalin and vote for him simply based on his father's legacy or his father's achievement, so to speak? So I think that is the kind of question which is to be answered. Now, having said
Yeah.
that, there is no change. There is no change in the way these parties have campaigned. This has been an out and out promising of almost anything and everything: washing machine, 1.5 GB broadband data, almost everything. Whatever you need for poll, or whatever you
Yeah.
need to run your house, you would get it in the poll. So you can easily tell that you would almost get everything. You turn on the TV, you would not get the manufacturer's logo initially. You would actually see Jayalalitha's photo there initially while the TV is booting up, and then you would
Fascinating.
get to see the actual picture. So I think that is the freebie culture that is still there somehow. Tamil Nadu will find it very difficult to get out of that even in the next 2, 3 election cycles. But then would they get rid of the craze, the celebrity craze? I think that is the prime question now.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you have Vijay and Kamal Hassan and all those people
Vijay Kant is
fighting.
not Vijay Kant is not the healthy self that he was earlier. So I don't think he is a major player going forward in Tamil Nadu. That third front or the third player space is what Seaman and Tol Tirumavalavan and Kamal Hassan, they all are targeting.
Yeah.
And I think looking at the way Kamal Hassan tried to position himself, I think he thought that people within the DMK who are not happy with Stalin leading them, or the lack of vision that he somehow he fails to bring in. I think he thought Kamal Hassan thought that many DMK people might actually end up voting for his party, MNM.
Let me ask you this: whether this put people like Alagiri, is he completely gone? Alagiri, is he completely gone?
I don't think he's a major player. I think he's a spent force.
Really?
He is too old as well, and
Yeah.
I think much water has flowed in the Kaveri since then.
Yeah,
I don't think.
because now you have the three power centers of DMK. From what I know, is one is Tamil Rasu, whose son is contesting, or his son, him. He's the brain, he's the money or the dollars behind DMK.
Pretty
If
much.
pardon my love for alliteration, I don't literally mean dollars. Before you all jump on me, then you have Kanimori, and then you have Stalin, and everybody is trying to put. Stalin has his kid also contesting from Chipok this time,
Udayanidi, yeah.
and then Udaynidhi, and then Kanimori to matlab is there only. So she has a Raja on her side. So
On
I don't know how this is going to pan out. So even if they get power, they are going to probably fight.
that will always be there. You will need to have that kind of a balancing to keep all sections of the party happy. Point number one. Point number two, if somehow Stalin loses, this will be the end for him. I don't think beyond this he can make a comeback. I mean, not a comeback. Comeback is the wrong word. He was never in power. But then I don't think he can win the state anymore. If not this time, then never. But
But
then
before we go on to
no, no.
sorry, go on. Yeah.
If Stalin does not win this time, then I think Kanimole will make her move and will try to snatch the party from
Yeah,
her.
she is probably closer to the Congress in terms of than probably Stalin is, and her persona is also very close to Karunanidhi, like what she believes in, and ideologically, I don't think Stalin is the same way as ideological as Kanimori is,
No,
but that
in fact,
yeah.
in fact, when Congress was asking for 30 seats and DMK was not willing to give more than 20, I think it was Kanimoli who directly spoke with Sonia Gandhi and convinced her agree for 25, but then also you take Kanyakumari bipole. So I think that was what settled the deal for the two parties. So I think you are right when saying that Kanimoli has the right contacts in the right places.
No. I only have to go by how the journalists behave when they are interviewing her, and they are almost I was like, "Arey, Sonia ji ki saheli hai." Like we have to accord the same level of sort of thing we give to Sonia Gandhi. But here that is all there. But before we move on to Kerala, any bets you want for Tamil Nadu? Do you think that the BJP and ADMK has a real chance this time? I mean, up to khair elections ho gaye.
Right. I have no shame in admitting that I was wrong the last time, where we all thought ADMK would do far better. BJP would win 3-4 seats, and not only me, many people got it wrong. So I think this time around, many people are the same set of people are telling that it would be a sweep for DMK, and I think they will be wrong, wherein it will not be that kind of a comfortable victory for DMK. Now, looking at the polling percentages, looking at the way the campaigning went about in almost the last fortnight, I think we will see almost a repeat of Bihar, wherein the victory margins will be far less, hardly 1,000 seats, 1,000 votes here and there, wherein you would almost see about 100 to 120 constituencies where you would see that kind of a narrow victory margin. So I think we would kind
So
of be
we are headed for a dramatic cliffhanger, and people who are in US on the other side of the hemisphere be prepared to stay up all night, basically.
pretty much, or maybe when you get up in the morning, you would still
No,
see
I don't
Tamil
need to.
Nadu.
It's a Saturday, na. So acha hai. Like all I need is my coffee ready with me, and I'm good to go.
Yeah.
So, but we are running flat out of time, so I don't want to forget Kerala, and Kishore is going to be Kishore has to be a little impressed that I managed to squeeze all four states appropriately in one podcast. I don't think he believed me when I told him I was going to do it. He's like, "Chalo, dekhte hai kya karta hai." But let's go to
No,
Kerala.
No, before
Sorry,
that,
Kishore.
people from Tamil Nadu will be happy that you have not put them the last.
Arey. There is no last or anything. Only the pecking order of the states that are about that have polled and that have already voted. So since Bengal still had some ways ahead, we started with that
Yeah,
first. But let's go with the Kerala, where seems like the only state that left has actually a chance, right?
they
And
do.
yeah, and weirdly enough, they are not in alliance with the Congress in this state, because this is the only state where they are not in alliance with the Congress. They are in alliance with the Congress in every other state. बहुत सालों पहले ये होता था कि लेफ्ट एंड कांग्रेस would never ally in any state, right? And Shekhar Gupta and many others, this is never going to happen. Left and Congress will never. But where, the emergence of Narendra Modi has united a couple of, united the two zeros in West Bengal. But in Kerala, they're fighting, and Kerala is this very weird state where there are so many factions of the Congress and so many factions of the communists, and they all are in alliance with others. So if you see this, Communist Party of India and Communist Party of India Marxist, they're in alliance with Kerala Congress Money, who KM Money, when KM Money was alive, they were in alliance with
They were
Congress.
in the,
Where
yeah, in
you,
the UDF. Yeah,
yeah, in the Pala area where the KM Money had won that seat for like 40 years or something.
correct.
Again, you had the NCP, Nationalist Congress Party, which was a part of the Congress. Going to there. Then you have Shreyans Kumar, who is the son of MV Virendra Kumar from Matrubhumi. It's a very fascinating. It's a Jain family from Kerala that actually does very well in their pockets, and they are in alliance with the lefts. And then you have, Congress Secular, Kerala Congress B, and then Janapaditya Kerala Congress. So you have all these factions of Congress in alliance with the left. And on the other side, you have Revolutionary Socialist Party, RSP, Communist Marxist Party, and Revolutionary Marxist Party of India in alliance with the Congress. So, Kishore, can we break down? People are going to be like, what the hell am I seeing?
No, this has been a bane for Kerala, wherein you had so many splinter parties, almost
Yeah.
each one of them relevant in only their pockets, and somehow
Hmm.
they all used to align together, and they would have proper vote transferability at a pan state level. And this has worked for them in the past 3 4 decades, and somehow the entire state they would vote one way or the other, oscillating between the UDF and the LDF. It's only
Hmm.
off late, only in 2016, that the LDF romped back to power based on V.S. Achuthanandan's legacy, and he was almost
Hmm.
92 at that time, and people thought
Yeah.
that V.S. might actually get a chance to rule again.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, what you said and managed to somehow didn't say was how Congress in itself is becoming that kind of a. Congress was a huge glacier in Kerala,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
once you have the oceans melting, glacier splits up, it forms smaller and smaller ice pockets, and then they kind of splinter out and drift away. I think that is what is happening with Kerala's Congress, splitting into all these varied parties, and all of them are now realizing that Congress in itself has no future in the state, especially with all the infighting. You have the Christian uh, section of the party under Uman Chandi and what's the other guy? A.K. Anthony and Oman Chandi, and
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
you have Ramesh Chanditala, the leader of the so-called Hindus within the Congress. So I think that's the kind of infighting that somehow Congress cannot find an answer for, and they keep everybody happy with giving them plum ministerial posts. But beyond that, somehow they have not find a permanent solution for it.
No, and they had this weird alliance we had where this Indian Union Muslim League and then also the KPS party, which was dominant among the Christians.
Exactly. So again, a social rainbow coalition for them.
Yeah.
IUML is popular within the Malappuram and the Palakkad and the Wayanad area,
Yeah.
and Congress somehow
And thanks to
used
them, Rahul Gandhi is an MP from Wayanad.
from Wayanad, and the Christian party is very popular in Kottayam and Alpura and Nakulam. So
Yeah.
I think that was the kind of social coalition that these people had. Now somehow in the past 5 years, the issue of love jihad has kind of become a hot potato. Although it may not reflect in these polls, I don't want anybody to come and ask you or me telling, hey, you claimed that love jihad is a major issue, but somehow the results do not indicate it. But somehow the Christians are finding it as something that they cannot live with, and they do not want the Congress to brush all these issues under the carpet, and they're over leaning towards the IUML or the Muslims. I think that has also hit the Christians quite hard. I don't think they
Right.
want to take no for an answer. What they are doing is
Yeah.
they are splitting either way. They are splitting towards the LDF, and some of them, not everybody, is leaning towards the NDA. This time around, the lean towards the NDA might not be so drastic or so dramatic, but going forward, the UDF itself might find their existence in question, and all these splinter parties might move elsewhere, and Congress might find the end of the road for themselves.
So I was
So
also
I
going
was
to,
also going to,
wrap up by talking about
by
the
talking about the
BJP and
BJP and
BJDS,
BJDS.
because BJP is fighting there. They've only won one seat, which is Nemom, last time, O Raja Gopal won. And they are in
Mhm.
alliance, of course, with the BJDS,
Mhm. Yes,
Velapalli Natesan's party. His son is
correct.
now leading the party, Tushar Velapalli. And, then you have the ADMK getting a couple of seats here and there, and, all these splinter parties again. CK Janu might actually, be in contention in her seat. Um, Apart from like where the Metro Man East Sridharan is fighting, and there are about 5 or 6 or 7 MPLAs. Do you think BJP is really in contest? Like the NDA is really has a chance of being in contest on more than 10 or 15 seats?
Not at all. Not at all. I think it is too
Yeah.
early. BJP or the NDA has not grown in Kerala as much as it has grown in a Tripura or a West Bengal. I think
Yeah.
they still need to do quite a bit of work. And demographically, it's not advantageous for the BJP. Unless and until the Christians align with them, there is just no way that BJP can govern a state like Kerala. I mean, if you look
Yeah.
at the demographics of that state, you will think, okay, 50% Hindus, 27, 28 Christian, and
Yeah.
25 Christians and Muslims. But somehow,
Yeah.
if you all, what people miss out on is the under 18 population. Under 18 population, it's almost 33, 33, 33. And I think that's the kind of demographics that BJP is going to fight even in the foreseeable future. So unless and until you
Absolutely.
have two 33 come together to fight another 33, I don't think they have any chance of ruling that state. Especially simply because of the communist ideology or the leftist ideology that is so deeply entrenched among the Nayars and the Ervas. I don't think.
Also, the left in Kerala is very different from the left in Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, and Bengal.
Very
So,
true. I mean,
you,
they are a potent force even now,
yeah.
not only electorally, but also in every aspect of their
Yeah, and
society.
in some ways they are not even as communist as they claim to be, like in some parts of it. And I'm no fan of communism. I don't think it's a plausible ideology at all. But there are facts, and the fact is, even right now, reading not a very popular government, Pinarayi Vijayan is still in contention. So we'll have to see how Enram's smile or frown looks like, because he has a lot. He'll probably closely be watching DMK and Left's performance in
Mhm.
Tamil Nadu. Last time, I think he was crestfallen that his beloved DMK lost in Tamil Nadu, and then he was seeking refuge that Pinarayi at least won. So I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do in Delhi, but with
But at
Bengal
that time,
losing, huh,
at that time, Pinarayi Vijayan was not the CM candidate. People thought it
he
would
was
be
not. That's right.
Sachidanandan. What the communists did to V. Sachidanandan was outright letting him off the hook kind of a scenario.
Yeah, yeah,
And people were actually thinking that the same might happen this time around, where the Shailaja teacher, the health minister, might
yeah.
actually be the chosen one this time around. But I don't think that will happen this time. It will be next time, when in 2026, when it may be Shailaja teacher versus the
Yeah,
stronger
what
and
is
stronger.
interesting is, yeah, what is interesting also, if Congress does win in Kerala, will it be Umen Chandi from someone from that camp, or it's going to be someone from Ramesh Chenithala's camp, right? Because if the Congress is trying to sort of woo the Hindu voter in
Keep
Kerala,
everybody happy.
are they going to go something like that? So that's the sort of
Let me
the
let me
crux.
no, let me give you a 30-second answer for that.
Go for it. Yes.
Shashi Tharoor and Rahul Gandhi in Delhi, almost everybody kept telling that we are for Hindu customs and traditions during the Sabrimala issue. However, during this campaigning in the past 3 months, they did not bring it up at all, which simply goes to show that they don't take it seriously.
They don't. Yeah, absolutely. That's just the sad reality of it. But guys, we tried to pack in as much as we could for all the four states. Kishore and I will do this again. Maybe we might even do a live stream on election day, counting day. I don't know. I haven't planned anything, but we'll certainly have an analysis podcast. Any closing thoughts, Kishore and you? I mean, we cannot go without recommendations. So, what's your recommendation and any closing thoughts?
Um, Closing thoughts, I think people, uh, everybody is thinking that everybody thought that Bengal would be a close election. I don't think that it would be a close election. People would vote one way or the other. It can be a complete surprise wherein TMC might come back with a strong majority, or it can be or it can be a contrasting outcome wherein BJP might win the state with almost a two-thirds majority. Now, that was not even a possibility about 3, 4, 5 months ago. Now, having said that, I think Tamil Nadu might end up becoming that surprise factor at the end of the day. People might see a lot of seats that are switching either way, and I think that might be something that might hold our attention, grab our attention on the 2nd of May. Baki sab to
Yeah.
anyway, we kind of know which way the wind is blowing, but I think Tamil Nadu would be far more fascinating that we all give them credit for.
Absolutely. And I forgot to mention, who knows, Puducherry might throw a surprise too, where actually BJP led NDA has a really good chance with All India NR Congress. Yeah.
Especially so because V. Narayan Swamy was not even given a seat to fight with. He
Huh.
is
I
not
mean,
even contesting
yeah.
it.
I mean, and the fact that his government fell 1 week or 2 weeks before elections or something like that. Something. I
True,
mean,
true.
it's not exactly 2 weeks, but बहुत पहले गिरी थी. It was really embarrassing. So, but I don't think any one of our listeners or people who enjoy informed political debates are ever going to miss the interventions of V. Narayan Sami on the Puducherry Assembly floors, because I remember when he was the Minister of State, he would yell like in the government, like for parliamentary affairs, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, how can you sit and listen to a discussion? But Kher, he was the chosen one of the Gandhi family, and that's what happened. Like they didn't even nominate the guy who they actually projected last time as the
Hmm.
chief minister. So it
Yeah.
was it's kind of funny. They didn't
And
officially do it, but unofficially, yeah.
yeah. And my recommendation for the week would be this book on how the Kotak built a bank, the Kotak Mahindra Bank. This is
Absolutely.
actually a part of a six-book series on shapers of business institutions, and this is something that I'm reading. Quite a fascinating read, especially how you could actually build a bank during all those economic illiberal regime, and how you were at the right place at the right time in 1991. I think I thought I would recommend that. It's quite a
Brilliant,
fascinating read.
brilliant, brilliant. My recommendation would be two things. First, I don't know if there is some Abhishek Bachchan movie releasing about 1992. I don't know how the movie is, but go and rewatch Scam 92. because I can assure you, I don't think it's based on the reviews and what I've heard people, it doesn't do a good job of it. I mean, if you want to watch popcorn entertainment, do watch it. But if you want to really know what happened, or at least get one perspective of what happened, I won't say really know, because it's based on Suchita Dalal's book, so it's her perspective, and we don't know the other perspective. Watch Scam 92, and for one reason is they get the performances, because they have taken a lot of Gujarati theatre actors to represent the Gujarati community of Mumbai, so they get it pitch perfect. And even the people like Satish Kaushik and all of them who have been chosen, they get their characters to the T. I mean, I was watching with my dad, who is very familiar with all this, and he was like a little child telling me, "This is that guy. This is based on that guy. This is based on that guy." So we had to pause every 15 minutes when he would tell me because when especially if you were in Ahmedabad at that time, you were very close to it, because that is where this was happening, Ahmedabad and Mumbai. A lot of these.
Right.
In fact, in the show, there is a journalist who's shown, who comes every few often from Ahmedabad to Mumbai and has all the scoops. So this used to happen. So that was that. My second recommendation this week would be an HBO documentary that goes into this whole advent of QAnon and what happened in the 2020 election. It's I think in India, it's on Hotstar. I'm not sure where, but you can look it up. It's a 6-part series. And it's a very intriguing take, right? And I personally did not know anything about QAnon or what it was and things like that. But I knew it was a phenomenon, but I didn't know the salient details. And when I saw the documentary goes to places and stuff. And I mean, ultimately, it's a documentary. So you watch it, you decide your perspective and write to us, and we'll have a discussion about that. It's this is what Mind Makers is for. But thank you, Kishore. You've been very generous with your time. I hope this was as much of a fun discussion, and I hope to have a follow-up discussion with you very soon.
Pleasure of mine, Aadit. Thank you.
Absolutely. And guys, please like us, follow us, share this. Let us know in the comments what you think. And let us know what else you want us to talk about in the weeks to come. But this is Aadit Kapadia signing off, and we'll be back next week. Thank you.